we are going to continue our deep dive in null values by actually looking at an even more nuanced way to, say, address temperature. So here's the idea. If we have a missing value of temperature, isn't our best bet to look at the temperature of the day before and the day after, right? It seems like it should be in between those two values. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. Okay, so let's make a new subheader. We'll call this subheaders 2 hashtags. You could say combine two, well, it's really combining 2 rows to replace null value. Okay, not the best header there, but it suffices. And let's look at how to do it. So the first thing I need to do is figure out where are the null values. You know, you can start to get lost when doing this, and you know, you can always go back and like rewrite the code. You can go up and look for it. You can even like look at the columns. So if I remember that there's a temperature column, that's what I want to use here, I can do this. I can set up a condition, okay, in the data frame such that I want to check that the temperature column, TEMP, not temp to temp, dot is in A. Remember that that's only going to show it where it's actually true. So what this should do is show basically df where temp has null values. All right. So if I press Shift Enter, remember this is called conditional formatting. There we got it. It is in row 701. So what I can do to look at the rows before and after is look at rows 700 and rows 702. And we looked at how to do that, right? See if you can code it without me. Okay, I'll code it here too, but you know, it's always good if you kind of know what I'm talking about to try to get a jump start. So what we're going to do is show rows 700 and 702. And recall too that we can be even more specific. We could get the temperature and a temperature values of these 2 rows. Or we could be a little easier and just show the whole rows. Easier in the coding sense, right? So df dot, I can use ilock or really dot lock here since it's the same. And I want to put in the list of 700 and 702. I'm going to get it to match the code above. Let's look at that. And you can see now I've got, and look, it was actually a big change in temperature. That's kind of interesting. So it looks like that the missing value should be somewhere in between these 2, right? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to compute the mean, which is the average between the 2, and we're just going to hard code it. Yeah, there's some different ways you could do it. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's first look at how to like access an entry. I don't know that we've done that. There are different ways you could like access an entry. Let's try row 700 and then column. The column is temperature, or it's a temperature, right? We can look at both. And so because temp is labeled, I can use like dot lock. So df dot lock, and let's say like, this is row 700, but the column is temp. Let's verify that that works. And it does. Okay. So to get the, say, mean temp, I can simply take this value, okay? Remember, we're never copying the numbers. And then I want to add it to row 702. Okay, so I just switched this to 702. And I want to put it in parentheses and divide by 2. Okay, and then very similar for the mean a temperature. I can just copy that and like, I'll call it a temp, and it's just, if you might be wondering what's temp and a temp. If you go back, I think I still have it up to the UCI machine learning repository. I won't click away so that you can see the code, but one of them is actually the way the temperature feels. Okay, so it's a little bit different and interesting, kind of to be interesting to analyze like which one is more influential. You would assume the way it feels, right? To determine like whether someone's more likely to use a bike rental or not. Okay, so that, let's run that. It's good not to. My personal feelings are that you don't want to fill up too much code in individual cells, because if you get an error, it's easier to pinpoint where the errors are. And you will see I will be getting lots of errors in this class. That's just the way we are as people. We get errors. Okay, well, it looks like no errors there. And so all that's left now is to fill in the null values. Okay, let's say what we did here. We got mean temps by taking mean of row before and after 701. Okay, now we're going to replace, null, temp nulls with the means. Okay, and again, my thinking is that at this point, if you followed everything I've done, you should be able to do that. Take a moment if you think you can accomplish that on your own. Recall you got to access the column, and then you've got to fill it. Okay, remember that code? By the way, if you're ever unsure, so here's how to get the column. df bracket, and note we're going to have to do temp and atemp. It's suggesting atemp first. You can do that one, but I'll go in the same order, which is temp. And then if you're not sure, like where you type dot, let's see if Colab is going to. No, see, it doesn't always work with the columns. You can try. I wonder if it'll work. Let me try one more thing here. If I do df.temp dot. Oh, it is working. So some of you may be wondering what's going on here. You can actually use dot in the column names. The reason why I don't do that is because it doesn't always work. There are some cases where I forget what they are, but where you actually need to use the quotes. So I tend to use the quotes. But look, I'm telling you, this is the way that it is. And in this case, it does actually prompt you with it. So I do see an advantage here using Colab. Because it is dot fill in A. And what am I filling in? Well, it's the mean temp. And similarly, for df.atemp, you can do dot fill in A and use the mean atemp. And did that work? Oh, you know what I left out? Maybe you guys figured it out. See, that wasn't what I was expecting to see. See, it's showing like, hopefully it's showing the columns correctly, because it should only be filling the null values. But I want this in place equals true. That's what I left out. I either need to reassign the columns or put in place equals true. Okay, I'll try it again. Now it's not showing. It's not showing an output. And let's just show the 3 rows. I think it'll look cool. So for instance, if we do df.lock, or ilock would work here. Well, let's actually use index notation, or sorry, slicing notation, right? We're starting at row 700. I want to go all the way up to 702. I want to include 702, so I end at 703. That should show us the first 3 rows, and there it is. Let's go over to temperature and look at that. Look at the beautiful null value corrected in the middle. See, null values, if you spend a lot of time and energy with them, can actually, I don't know, it can be nice. I think that's nice. And I will say this. I don't usually spend as much time cleaning null values. I'm actually using this as a tool to introduce you all to pandas. So this is going to, after this introductory lesson on pandas, and we'll continue to use pandas, okay? But we're going to switch our focus to machine learning. I guess we'll have a second lesson as well to bridge them. So do we have any more null values? And how can we find out? Well, if you want to do df.isInA.sum, I like to look at it by column sometimes here. One, because I'm not expecting a 0. And two, show nulls by column, you could say. It'll tell us what column we need to change. So maybe they're all good. Nope. Year and month. We've got to do something with date columns.